This is WWE superstar Drew McIntyre, and you're listening to the WWE Podcast.
The champ is
the one that everybody wants, me.
It's going to WrestleMania. Claymore!
Austin 316 says I just whipped your ass. This is my iron. You're going to acknowledge me.
All right, everybody, welcome to the Money in the Bank review show here on the WWE Podcast. It is Sunday, July 7th, 2024. A lot has happened, my God, over the last 24 hours since we saw Money in the Bank conclude. A show that I don't think I've seen so many botches in a single show, yet at the same time, the matches seem to all work very well, so I don't think the botches really hurt any of the matches. And beyond that, we had a surprise appearance from John Cena, which we'll talk about in just a moment. That will be the very first topic that we talk about here on the show because it's headline news, as it should be, with John Cena announcing his retirement and how he's going to do it. So we'll talk about that in a moment, but I'd like to welcome you all to the show and welcome you to join the ad-free side of things at patreon.com/WWE podcast or on Apple Podcasts. There's an ad-free button to get you 7 days for free, and then join us for ad-free until you feel like not listening to, or you're tired of listening to ad-free content and you want to just have the ads return. I guess it's up to you, and that's available to anybody that wants it. If you want to zap those ads, that's the way to do it. Now, let's get into it. Let's get into John Cena, because even though he wasn't a part of the show, he's headline news, and he took over the post show, the post press conference that is increasingly becoming more fun to watch. And Drew McIntyre even got involved in the post press conference with the post conference crew, with Big E there, and Wade Barrett there, and Kathy Kelly there, and we'll get to that in a moment as well, with CM Punk yet again screwing Drew McIntyre. So we'll talk about that in just a few. But these press conferences are becoming almost must watch, because the muzzle is off. It feels like stars are just able to speak freely, and John Cena even kind of ran things here and said, no, we're answering every single question. I'm not leaving. It's your guys' fault you put me on first. So I watched every question asked of John Cena, and there were more. Clearly, there were more. WWE, seemingly was annoyed by it. I'm sure they were, but I don't think the fans were. They wanted to hear what the quote-unquote and very subjectively named greatest of all time had to say about his retirement, and some good questions came out of it, because he came out earlier on the show, as we saw, with Trish Stratus, introducing him in the very uncharismatic way that Trish does. And I'm sorry, look, I love Trish as a nostalgic act. I think there is still some fight left in her too. I think that her and Tiffany Stratton seem to maybe have something going, but she has never been known for being ultra charismatic and energetic on the mic. That's never been her thing, so I can't fault her for that. But nonetheless, Cena comes out and he tells us that he's here to officially announce his retirement. But if anybody saw his shirt at home, before he made his retirement, if you read his shirt, it said basically like his 2025 retirement tour. So if you read his shirt before you listened to his words, you're kind of like, oh, okay, well, he's going to announce his retirement, but it's going to be a tour. It's not going to be a singular date. And yeah, he wanted to say thank you. He's Mr. Grateful now. But I think that the post-press conference gave us the deets, as he said, which, if you're looking for the Cliff Notes version of it, there are 30 to 40 dates that he's going to have with WWE starting in 2025. So I don't think he's going to be involved on WWE television until Raw debuts on Netflix. in January, early January. So that'll be the kickoff, if you will, of the John Cena retirement tour. And he'll go until December. That's the plan right now. From January to December, say he has 36 dates. Let's take the mid-road here. Between 30 and low 40s is what he said. Say even 36. Why am I picking 36? Because if there's 12 months in a year, no, there are, not if, and he does 3 dates per month and misses maybe one televised show a month, that's 3 dates per month. Average. Maybe he goes 6 weeks straight and takes 2 weeks off. I mean, of course, he could do that. But on average, he should be on a televised event 3 times a month. I don't know if he'll do any house shows. I don't know if that includes house shows, or maybe I missed that part of it. If it's just televised events, I would imagine televised. But I wouldn't put it past him to do a house show here and there. And everything he does next year will be the last thing he does for that particular event, meaning it's his last Rumble, it's his last Chamber. He'll be there too. It's his last WrestleMania, but not his final match. I was mistaken thinking that WrestleMania would be his final match, but no, it's just his final WrestleMania. It looks like he'll wrap it up and call it a career in December of next year. And that's kind of cool. It gives everybody an opportunity, not everyone, but a large number of people an opportunity to go, say thank you, have him return in kind, appreciate every moment you have with John Cena, because he had made it very clear also in the press conference, he is not going to return to a guest referee role after this, or turn in, take a random bump through a table after this, that he is 100% done after this. And I believe him. And I know this industry is infamous for never say never, right? Shawn Michaels said the same thing about his career. Stone Cold Steve Austin said the same thing about his career. Hell, Undertaker made a career out of talking about and people speculating about him ending his career. So, of course, this is a never say never, but I'll take John Cena at his word, which is also what his character and real life persona has lived on and lived by, is his word. And that this is it, right? So pretend that New Year's Eve of 2025 is it, which is kind of a weird time to retire, is it not? Like, what are you going to, what's the final event in December? Is it like Night of Champions or something? Do you really want to go out at Night of Champions? Yeah, but is it like in Saudi? I mean, I mean, no, because Crown Jewel's in November. So, but I'm trying to think, like, why December? You can't just kick it a few months to December, to WrestleMania 42. I don't know. Anyway, taking everything at his word, he'll end it and wrap it up in December of next year, just in time to end, or really just in time before WrestleMania 42 season kicks off. And there were some fun questions asked. Will you turn heel? Is this an opportunity for you to turn heel? And Cena, in so many words, said no. He speaks very much like a politician, where he dodges questions in a way that he's dodging it by answering another question that wasn't asked. Like, for example, when the Vince McMahon thing was asked, he's like, well, focusing on the now. It's like, okay, got it. You're not answering the question. So it's a very tried and true traditional way to dodge a question you don't want to answer without saying I'm not going to answer that, and you just answer a question that wasn't asked. And so, obviously didn't talk about the Vince McMahon stuff when he was asked, but again, the heel stuff, he said, I don't know if there'd be a purpose to it, or if there'd be that there would be, people would see through it, I think is what he said. Which is kind of disappointing that we won't get, it seemingly anyway, get a heel John Cena and what that looks like. But, I mean, not the end of the world. It's just kind of disappointing. We're not going to get it at, any point. But, hey, we still have Mr. All Smiles all the time in Cody Rhodes, that he'll eventually, I think, turn heel, and hopefully in his career, and he doesn't make a career out of just being a babyface. But staying on topic here, John Cena does have a plethora of talent to work with. And while we all speculate of who his final opponent's going to be, and I think it will be maybe somebody that we've seen before, and people are already talking about his retirement match being against Randy Orton. I would love that. I think Randy and John Cena will have time to work together. Maybe it's at this year's WrestleMania. But to me, Randy Orton should be his final opponent and not at WrestleMania. The reason is not that it's not worthy of it, but WrestleMania is a time to help put over new talent. It's usually not a time for just kind of one-offs between legends that are not the future of the business. You know, you want to help build that next generation. So I think that Randy should be his final opponent, but his final opponent's not going to be at WrestleMania. But you look at the roster, there's so many guys he doesn't work with. On top of the fact that, and this is outside the box, but how about if MJF's contract, which we don't know the details of, I know he's under AEW, in contract with AEW, I understand that. Confirmed he is, but we don't know the length of it. What if MJF didn't sign a long-term deal with AEW? It was just a year, maybe 18 months even. That gives him enough time to opt out, come to WWE. I just want an MJF John Cena promo in the worst way. I probably won't get it, but it is certainly a it's a fantasy of mine in wrestling context to be able to see those two on the mic. Even in the ring would be fun, but on the current roster, you know, he's probably going to work with several new talent. He could easily work with anybody, including CM Punk. We saw that being teased. Punk even teasing at the press conference that I'll be the one to bring him back out of retirement, which I don't think will happen, but I think Punk and Cena is a match. Punk and Orton is a match. I don't want Cena and Roman. I don't want that. You could even see, and someone asked him this, Cena Rock? How about Cena and Rock? Somebody asked that. He dodged it a bit. That was a very political answer. It was a whole bunch of nothing is what it was. It was basically saying, stay tuned. It was like, 10 paragraphs that really boiled down to, I don't know, stay tuned. So there's a lot of cool matchups, and it's just going to be fun. It's going to be fun to see John Cena, if he's in your town and WWE is coming through and, it's either Raw or SmackDown. I don't think he'll be tied to a specific brand. Then I would recommend you go see him, because I believe him when he says that he is not going to return in any capacity. Maybe obviously for Hall of Fame he would. So I think for Hall of Fame, you could have him come out on stage, obviously, or when he takes the stage at WrestleMania. That would probably be the extent of it. You're not going to see him in a guest referee role. You're not going to see him as a general manager role. That's probably off the table. So I'd highly recommend that if you're able to, from January of 2025 until December of 2025, able to see John Cena, it is probably your last chance from a wrestling standpoint to see him. And I'd highly recommend that you do. So the only thing that's going to be very interesting, and I thought about this as kind of a morbid situation. What if John Cena gets hurt? What if John Cena gets hurt next year and he's out for 6 months? I'm not trying to put this out in the universe, but I guess I just did. I mean, what then? I mean, the guy he's 47 years old. He hasn't run in anywhere near a full-time schedule for a long time. I know he did his run last year with SmackDown, had several dates, and it was fun. But what if he tears his tricep like Punk did? What if, he blows his shoulder out, blows a knee out, and then he's out for 6 to 8 months? I would imagine he'll tack that on to whatever his return date is and still trying to manage a full year out of his career. I don't know. But I'm sure there's got to be some kind of contingency plan for him to be able to, really make a full year out of his farewell tour. So it's something I thought about, okay, yeah, this is your plan, but, life has a way of of kind of having its own plans for you at times. So I'm not hoping that happens by any means. I hope that doesn't. And I mean that. I really don't want that to happen. But just thinking ahead, like, okay, he has this whole thing. He has this big idea. And then he blows his ACL out, right? He pulls an Aaron Rodgers. And, first night out, just tears his Achilles. And he's out for the whole year. I mean, it's possible, right? The dude has not taken that many bumps in this many years. And I also want victories for John Cena. There's even a 17th. Somebody asked, can you see yourself winning a 17th title, world title, which would break the record, Ric Flair's record? And he said, oh, well, I got to earn it, being very modest, knowing damn well if you gave him truth serum, he would say, I don't need to earn it by birthright of being John Cena. I earn it, right? But he said the politically correct thing, and rather the corporately correct thing, that I got to earn it. And that he's been on a losing streak, which he has, because every time he comes back, he's in the give back mode of his career where he's there to help put over new talent. And I respect that. But at some point, you got to give John Cena some victories here. And I think upon his return, you're going to see John Cena rack up victories. And maybe he'll chase the title. Maybe he'll go against Cody Rhodes. I mean, there's really... They should look at this as... an opportunity to use one of the best stars for the last time while he can still go and make massive moments while helping build the next generation. I don't think I need to tell them that would be preaching to the choir, but that's how, if I was presented with this opportunity and I had full reign of creative, that's how I would look at it. As fans, I think we should understand that. And again, the move to Netflix in January is a massive deal. And you do wonder what the ratings are going to be like, given that there are how many millions, hundreds of millions of people subscribe to Netflix, and how much that will improve their ratings going off of cable TV. That's just wild to think about. How crazy is it that Monday Night Raw, that we all knew on, at least from, again, I'm the millennial here. I started watching in 97 and it was on USA. Then it went to TNN. Remember that? Again, this is Raw, not SmackDown. I know SmackDown was on UPN and some other networks, but it went from USA to TNN, and then I think back to USA, and now it's going to go to Netflix, which is just crazy because it's just taking that risk of going off of I don't even know if it's a risk anymore, but going off of cable TV to a streaming service. It's very 2024-ish, but it's something that I think is really a safe move. Also, side note, before I forget, Bad Blood is coming back on October 5th in Atlanta, Georgia. And Corey Graves and Michael Cole had a nice reminder to us that it's the first time in 27 years that the Bad Blood event is returning to WWE, and it's a return to the exact date of the original, where, as we all know, Undertaker and Shawn Michaels had the very first Hell in a Cell match, in what I believe is arguably the best Hell in a Cell match that has ever been presented. And there were the debut of Kane and all that. I mean, it's special to me because it was the first real storyline I remember getting into, was Undertaker and Shawn Michaels, and I've documented that more times than I can count here on the show, so I won't bore you. But it's cool that they're bringing that back, the Bad Blood event. Which, are they really going to have blood on the Bad Blood event? How can they not? It's got to be, right? How can they not have it? And you think about some of the storylines that could go into that Bad Blood event. I mean, there's Seth Rollins and CM Punk that was teased on the show. We'll get into that. But I know, again, I've spent nearly 20 minutes talking about John Cena here, but it's, I think, deserving of time here because of how big of a star he is, what he's meant to wrestling. He's the face of the PG era. and he gets to call his own shot of how he leaves. And I think that was brought up too. And that's a big deal. And Triple H said that's a big deal. And it's pretty damn cool he gets to do this, barring injury, of course, that he gets to just have fun, work with creative on who he wants to work with, which he says he doesn't have any say in that. That's a bunch of nonsense. Of course he does. I don't think he doesn't have full creative control, but he has significant input. I mean, it's just, of course, right? He's John Cena. So who he works with is going to be interesting. We can now speculate. Starting in January, who does he work with? Does he win the Rumble? Does John Cena win the Royal Rumble this year? Very possible. Unlikely, but possible. What about this? Stone Cold versus John Cena. I mean, I'm throwing stuff out there that sounds insane. It sounds wishful thinking. It sounds very, it's a video game match. But like, not really. I mean, you've already got half the equation there. We've never seen it. We've never seen John Cena versus Austin, and John Cena is going to be available for a full year. You have Austin, who came off a very good performance a couple of years ago at WrestleMania 38. Give him enough time, could get in ring shape. Why the hell not? Why the hell not? So, again, unlikely, but possible. So, all right, I'll get off the John Cena train here. We've kind of exhausted it, I think, but it's something fun to really think about as WWE goes from hot to blazing hot, I think, white hot, starting late this year. Guys, we just got through. If you've been watching wrestling since WrestleMania 40 and post WrestleMania 40 and, the last 3 months, then you have seen the worst that WWE has to offer for the next probably 5 years because we have massive returns on the way that I've listed a number of times. Roman Reigns is coming back very soon. The Rock is coming back very soon. Charlotte Flair is coming back probably at SummerSlam, I would imagine. We have the return of John Cena for a full year. A full year. Think of all the potential matchups. We got the Wyatt Six now, paying tribute to Bray Wyatt. Guys, and I've only touched the surface of what's going on. When they go to Netflix and it's it's not PG anymore officially, and they can kind of do whatever they want uncensored. We don't have to hear things being blanked out, and there can be blood and swearing when needed. I mean, that's going to open up creative. It won't turn everything around, but it's going to be fun to see what they do with that newfound freedom. So you add that to the hype of John Cena, on top of the fact that at that point it's WrestleMania season. People are talking about the Rumble, who could come in, who could debut, who could return. Rock and Cody, likely a matchup. Guys, this is going to be wild. It's going to be wild. If you aren't getting excited, then I don't know what you're doing. So, all right, let's talk about Money in the Bank a little bit more. And I'm going to talk about Seth Rollins and Damian Priest. Let me talk about that because it leads into Drew. Which, by the way, you know what? Let me back up, because if I'm going to start this correctly, let's talk about the men's ladder match for the Money in the Bank briefcase, which I have to say, I think the women outdid the men on this. And we'll talk about the women's matches. Even though as clunky as it was, I think it did outdo the men's. So we'll talk about that in a minute for the women anyway. But let's talk about the men's Money in the Bank ladder match. And this obviously saw Drew McIntyre come out on top, as many of us had predicted. But this was a car crash match. And it was a lot of moments where Knight could win. And then, of course, you had Jey Uso, who had his moments where you thought he could win. Andrade was there to just be a body to be thrown around. I mean, just call it like I see it. Andrade has been a very flat, and that's being generous, return. But outside of that, we had Carmelo Hayes have some cool moments. He had a moment where you think, oh my God, maybe he could. And Drew ultimately did come out on top. and he ends up getting the briefcase where you thought, hey, okay, he's probably cashing in. But then you're thinking, well, the announcers are talking about it, so it probably isn't going to happen. So they did a little bit of reverse psychology there where it actually did happen, even though they said it would happen, which makes you think it's not going to happen, but it did. I don't know if that was the thinking. I don't know if it was that deep, but that's how I thought about it. And this match went 16 and a half minutes, by the way. And the finish was McIntyre knocking Jay out of the ring with a Claymore, climbed the ladder, got the victory. Jay did spear Gable. Gable was a standout here. Gable was the star of the show. He seemingly is a heel still, and I think he still is, but just you're seeing how good he is and how much better he is than we all thought he was. And that's saying something. He continues to impress. He is a dynamic, deep character that is far and away the standout in this match. More than anyone. More than Carmelo. More than Jey Uso, who's got one word right now to his name, and it's successful and it's fun and it's marketable. But Jey Uso, I think, needs a little bit of a creative shove. I think he's been a little bit of a one-dimensional guy for a while in the whole yeet, everything's yeet, right? When you think about the words, too, it's so funny. The simplest words have been the most marketable, right? Daniel Bryan with yes, yes. Austin continues with what? And the begrudgingly just awful, terrible what chance. The yeet movement, Jey Uso. The yeah movement with LA Knight. So yeet, yeah, what, yes. I mean, just simple stuff. Simple words. But anyway, I just kind of thought about that too during the match. So we had McIntyre win. And then that bled into the match between Priest and Seth, which I thought was really good. I mean, I enjoyed this very much, despite the fact that there were a couple of F-ups. Like Priest not kicking out when he should have. He's looking over to see where Drew is. Was it off the Falcon Arrow that he screwed up and he didn't kick out and the referee just didn't count the 3? Yeah, that was a screw up. But you know, so what? It didn't bother me other than to feel bad for him. But he wasn't the only one that screwed this thing up here. I mean, we had McIntyre come out and make this thing a triple threat. I don't know why we have to wait for Samantha Irvin to announce that it's a triple threat. I thought they could just ring the bell. But anyway, very, very small complaint. But Drew did make it a triple threat. He cashed it in. And we ended up getting a terrible Claymore to Priest, which it wasn't. I don't think it was Priest's fault. That was clearly on McIntyre, who botched that Claymore kick, which you almost never see. I don't know if that's ever happened, but then you knew that Punk wasn't going to be far behind, and he wasn't. We then even had Cole ask, quote, "What are you doing? What the hell are you doing here, Phil?" So I don't know why Cole has been the one to use Phil's name to make it more serious and real, I guess. Not a complaint, just kind of, it's a bit off the typical narrative that WWE uses, which is just, the announcers never use the wrestlers' real names unless they refer to themselves as that to begin with first. Weird. It's just weird. But I understand why they did it, I guess. However, this was Drew getting screwed by Punk again, because after Punk hit McIntyre with several chair shots, he ends up getting south of heaven by Priest, and Priest retains. And not only did Punk screw McIntyre again, he inadvertently, or maybe a little bit of purposefully, screwed Seth, because now Seth can't challenge for the world title as long as as long as Priest is still champion. And you saw the frustration as Seth stared down Punk after the match, teasing a future matchup with those two that was supposed to happen at this year's WrestleMania, and maybe it does happen at next year's. So that, I don't think it'll happen immediately, but it is something that they can use as a platform to spring into their program whenever it does happen. So, fun kind of dual screw job by Punk. One intentional, one not so much. And McIntyre lost it on the show, on the post show, and it's going to be fun to see what he does. He can't quit this time, right? He has to go into full-blown destruction mode. This is clearly leading to a match between these two at SummerSlam. And we'll have to see what happens there, and maybe it leads into Bad Blood. Very apropos for this matchup. No doubt about it. It's just, to me, like, they're going with Gunther and Priest right now. And I was very adamant that they're not going to do that because it's not an exciting matchup. And it's not, and it still isn't, and I don't think it ever will be. With Gunther versus Priest, no disrespect to either man. I know you're trying to build for the future, but here's one big, massive problem. Those are two heels. Now, sure, you could have Priest get kicked out, which I think he's an inch away from, with the whole Judgment Day beating him down. Finn Balor could turn on him. I think he's very close to doing that anyway. And you could get some sympathy on Priest. Yes, you could. Or you could wait for them to screw Priest until SummerSlam and have them intentionally screw Priest. But then wouldn't that kind of soften the victory, Gunther's first world title victory, by having the Judgment Day essentially inadvertently help him or purposefully help him? You can run that risk too. So either way, I don't know what scenario you're going to run me or try to sell me on that Priest versus Gunther is exciting. It's really not. Sorry. It's not. I mean, I'd watch it. I wouldn't lose my mind over it. You just look at it and go, yeah, I could see that match on Raw. But if someone said to you, that's going to be the SummerSlam main event, you'd say to yourself, what? How? Why? So they've got some work to do over the next 4 weeks to get anyone excited about this matchup, if they're sticking with it, and if it's one-on-one and they don't add somebody to make it a triple threat. But it's just a weird combination as currently constituted, right? Again, things could change. On Raw tomorrow night, things could change. Absolutely. But if this is the match you're going with, I'm a bit perplexed. It doesn't excite a whole lot of people. So anyway, let's get to the Intercontinental title match, which was the Braun Breaker Sami Zayn match. And hats off to both men. Let me first and foremost, Breaker continues to show you he's not a one-trick pony with the spear. He's got a arsenal pretty deep. Sami Zayn never has a bad match. Almost ever. I don't even know if I've seen a bad Sami Zayn match. I don't think I can name it. But the finish here, this match lasted 13 minutes. And here's the finish. Breaker slammed Zayn to the mat, went for a spear, but Zayn caught him with a kick. Zayn waited for Breaker to stand up and then hit him with the haluva kick and got the victory. So Zayn wins. And Zayn wins clean. A lot of people are perplexed by that, thinking it's going to hurt Breaker. It's not. Okay. Braun Breaker tomorrow night on Raw could do what Drew McIntyre is likely going to do and destroy everything in sight, send more people to the hospital, and then you're back to heat on Breaker. You forgot all about his loss to Sami. Right? It's going to be very easy to repair Breaker. I think that, is he a little bit early in his career to win that title? Kind of, yeah. I mean, so I think I'm just blinded so much by and bored so much by the Sami Zayn title run, and I have not done a turnabout face here where I've said, I can't wait for Sami to beat Gunther at WrestleMania, blah, blah. No, I've been steadfast that I don't think he was the right guy. Fans, remember, were very upset that it wasn't Gable versus Gunther at WrestleMania. I still think it should have been. I've been very unenthusiastic about the Sami Zayn victory against Gunther and even having the match to begin with at WrestleMania. I just don't think it was the right matchup. But that's not to say they don't have good matches, but just because can have a good match doesn't mean it's the right match. So I think I've been a little bit blinded so much by and bored by Sami Zayn's run that I'm thinking, well, Breakker could win it. He should win it. Sami's been boring. But also, you look at it and go, is Breakker ready for that, though? Yeah, is he the right guy right now? I don't, that's up for debate. But either way, I was very surprised. I did think Breakker was going to win here and continue his momentum. But they're clearly trying to make the Sami Zayn victory over Gunther stick here, give him a little credibility. And they did that here. I mean, having him beat Breakker was a surprise to many. And I think Breakker is going to be just fine. People are saying, oh, that damaged him so much. Not really. No. Again, Breakker is early in his career. You're more vulnerable to doing damage early in your career with the way fans view you. But Breakker can easily get that back. I mean, on Raw, you'll forget all about it when he starts spearing people through concrete walls, and tipping over stuff and sending people to the hospital. So, just weird. And I'm still bored by Sami Zayn's run. Sorry. I mean, it's a snooze fest. Almost as unimpressive as Bayley's run. And this, again, it's no slight on the talent themselves. They're doing what they can with what they're given. But for both, especially Bayley, I know she wasn't on the show at all, they have done her dirty. And for Sami Zayn, it's just been boring. He screams every promo. He's the underdog in every single match, which is kind of fascinating. He's got some fun babyface music. He's a little boring right now, and he's been a little boring for a while, despite how loud he wants to scream about everything he talks about all the time in every promo. That's how I feel, that's all. Excellent in-ring wrestler. Character needs a kind of a rejuvenation, and I think he needs to drop the belt. That's just how I feel. Okay. We got Trish Stratus stuff, and the John Cena stuff happened after that. We already went over in detail for 25 minutes. We got the women's ladder match. Boy, that's a car wreck. And, there were some bad spots early and often in this matchup. Even Naomi's split-legged DDT was nearly a disaster. Some of the botches, like Zoe Stark doing she's trying to do some kind of senton on someone on the ladder very close to the ropes, and she totally missed and nearly broke her neck. That was scary. Some of the botches onto the ladder were scary. Very scary. Was it Lyra Valkyria who took the bump from EO off the ladder? Was that her? I think it was. Or is it Naomi? I can't remember. But it was a disaster. But I mean that in a way that is complimentary, because somehow the women trudged through the botches and the scary moments. Man, and even Corey Graves kind of caught on to what the fans were doing when they were being so quiet, that they were so concerned. They were more concerned about the health and well-being of the wrestlers. He even said that, which is true, because the people were like, whoa, ooh. I mean, it was uncomfortable. Some of the spots were scary. And I'm not trying to throw shade at the women, and it's not a match to easily navigatable. I get it, but it was scary early on, and the women still pulled through very well. The dynamic with Chelsea Green being from Canada, West Vancouver, which is the other end of the damn country, and the crowd still were enamored with her. There were moments I thought they were actually going to pull the trigger on Chelsea Green winning. She is a fun character to watch. She's kind of the lovable loser that you don't really hate, but she's so kind of oblivious in her own world. It's almost charming. I can't describe her character. It's just, she's got something there. And I know Canada, being in Canada, does help her reaction given she's from Canada. I get that. But even in the States, she's been supported and supported well. And I think that this could have been a moment for her, but makes more sense, as I said, with Tiffany winning here, as many people predicted, because what are you going to do? Okay, you get the victory. The crowd goes crazy for Chelsea. But then what? Are you going to have her cash in and be the first one to fail? Are you going to really waste the Money in the Bank cash in on a joke, on a cash in you know is not going to be successful? Just to really, I don't know if waste it's the right word, but to utilize it. There's a more professional way to say it, right? To utilize it in that manner, to just have Chelsea Green lose, and then once she lost, you would have said, okay, well she cashed in and she lost. Well, that was kind of a waste. I wish they gave it to someone that could actually cash in and win instead of making it a big joke. So I think that would have been the backlash. And Tiffany won, and I think that there is something to be said for that, because you could now take a heel, which again, these matches, when you look at who wins, McIntyre, heel, Money in the Bank winner. Tiffany Stratton, heel, Money in the Bank ladder match winner. You look at the people who have won over the years, and I continue to say this, it's a match designed for heels to win, because the manner in which you cash in your prize is in alignment with the morals of the heel, morals and values of the heel. Opportunistic, hitting people when they're down, trying to steal the prize, not really earning it per se, but taking advantage of the situation to get what you want. All values that heels have. It's in alignment with how you utilize the briefcase. And again, you don't have to. Somebody out there may say, well, that's how most people do it, but you don't have to, like John Cena, who announces in advance, the baby faces announcing in advance that they're going to cash in. Well, then then the argument against that is, well, you're just stupid. It makes you look stupid, because now you're not utilizing the prize to its full potential. Like, if you really want to win the belt so bad, why would you announce it ahead of time instead of using the element of surprise? So it's again, it all boils down to a very heel-heavy prize that I think we should kind of just understand moving forward. Now, it's not to say a babyface can't win it, but statistically, I don't have the numbers in front of me. I'm just taking you at face value here that the heels generally win that. Now, back to Tiffany. Now you have a Money in the Bank briefcase holder that you can take seriously, and I think that Tiffany will hold on to that for a month or two. They typically don't have the women hold it too much. They just can't help themselves. But I think Tiffany may hold it for a little longer than we realize. And that way they can kind of figure out what they want to do with her heading into SummerSlam, and of course end of the year, Rumble and Mania. Do they want to have her cash in? What do they want to do with her? Maybe she goes into this side program with Trish for a while. But Tiffany Stratton was over too with the crowd. I mean, you heard her reaction. She was very pleasantly surprised. You could even see it in her face with the reaction she got. So the Canadian crowd always delivered. They did in this instance too, and they even they said this is awesome through nearly every match. But the women, I think, still, despite these botches, despite these scary moments, from an emotional standpoint, and really from just an effort, yes, I mean, it felt like effort-wise, I think the women won here. If you were to put the men's and women's ladder matches side by side, hey, I'd give the nod to the women. But, all right. Then we got, again, I'm not going through every spot. If you guys want to talk about specific spots, you can email me at the mailbag at www.podcast.com. But, let's see here. We then get the Bloodline versus Cody, Randy, and KO. This match, let's see here. did 24 minutes and 40 seconds. And yes, we got another ref bump. This ref, by the way, was down for like 40 minutes, it felt like. And as a company that prides itself on being professional and, top of the line, and they're the cream of the crop, doesn't know how to fix these situations. If this was truly supposed to be a competitive sport, I mean, this is one of the most common situations in a match. A referee gets knocked down. Chaos then ensues. Yet they don't know how to solve this problem timely or at all. Are there not a multitude of referees back there ready to just take his place? Or they just wait for the referee to wake up? I mean, it's kind of funny that one of the most common problems in pro wrestling, they don't know how to solve it. I don't know. Just leave him there, right? Leave the referee for dead. Not a complaint, just a funny observation. But there was a ref bump, as nearly every Bloodline match does. 25 minutes. I mean, this was a long match, but good ring psychology. KO, who had a rough week, obviously, from a personal standpoint, his mother being in the hospital. Even said it after the match. Had some nice spots here, getting beat down, but coming out with absolute fist and fury, going after the Bloodline, and hitting a stunner on the outside of the ring was interesting. Solo getting hit with a stunner, he got hit with Crossroads, which, let me see. And this is a serious question to those of you that love Cody Rhodes. You're a Cody apologist. He can do no wrong. He's, he's the best thing ever. When you look at his finish, look me in the eyes with a straight face and tell me his finish is a great finish maneuver. Tell me it's awesome. Please. Somebody. Anybody? Bueller? Because almost every time, about 98% of the time, when I see his finish, it looks terrible. And it's not on Cody. It's not on the guy he's working with. It's on the maneuver itself, because it's nearly impossible to make it look good unless you do it perfectly, which I think one of the security guys that Cody gave it to the other day did. And he nearly broke his neck, but it looked great. But the way Cody delivers it, and the way the maneuver is just actually delivered the best way you can, Cody's the one taking the bump. It doesn't look devastating for his opponent at all. And then the fact that he has to deliver it multiple times a match further cements how crappy that move is. I understand, he holds on and he just hits 3 of them. Well, then if you have to hit a maneuver multiple times, I would stop calling it your finish. I would stop using that move and move on. So, anyway, it looked horrible on Solo. Horrible. But the right team got the victory here. Even after Solo got an RKO and got demolished, Jacob Fatu is a standout. He's the werewolf, whatever they call him. They continue to push the Bloodline and build heat. There were "We Want Roman" chants that happened many times throughout the match, before the match, after the match, and the crowd was waiting for it. I said that this is the earliest it could happen, but I knew once you saw John Cena, you're not going to have 2 big returns in a night. Usually, I know that Punk and Orton did it at Survivor Series last year, but it's rare, because then one kind of steps on the other and overshadows the other. You usually don't want to do it. Also, it gives a little more heat to Solo and his group. And now we have SummerSlam on the horizon. There's no more in between B pay-per-view stops. It is SummerSlam full throttle. Now we can start looking at, okay, SmackDown. Could Roman return at SmackDown? Very possible. Could Roman return just before SummerSlam? Very possible. Is he going to return at SummerSlam? Very possible, if not probable. So I think within 4 weeks' time, we will have a returned Roman Reigns, and I think Paul Heyman's going to be in tow. The Usos are going to be in tow, and we're going to have a build to the OG bloodline versus the Rogue bloodline, and it's going to be off to the races. A lot of fun. I just can't imagine a scenario in which Roman is not back by SummerSlam. It's possible if they want to build to the end of the year, but I mean, people are ready. So, but yeah, I think the right team won here, and I thought the show overall was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun, and John Cena made it fun, yes, but the matches, despite the botches, and usually sometimes botches can ruin moments and take you out of the moment, or when the fans say, "Oh, you effed up," and that kind of stuff. It's like, okay, to me, I know fans can come to the shows and chant what they want within reason. And I'm not saying fans can't chant this, or I'm not trying to censor speech, but I'm also saying to myself, if I hear that, like, it's a bit disrespectful. Of course they screwed up. That's not how they wanted to execute the maneuver. Some of these maneuvers are very difficult to perform, even if you're a trained professional like they are. Very difficult. And the margin for error is very, like, razor thin between, being a paraplegic and walking after the match. And again, the Canadian crowd didn't do that. I'm just saying sometimes you hear that when a maneuver is not performed the way it should be. So coming back, those botches really didn't hurt, to me, the outcomes of the matches. Now, it was weird when Priest didn't kick out, and he was supposed to, and the referee had to essentially stop his count. That's never a fun botch. That's kind of a yikes botch. Drew McIntyre's sloppy Claymore, which never happens. And Drew, you know what? Again, I'm not knocking Drew. I'm not knocking Priest. This stuff happens. All right. This stuff is, I'm not knocking anybody, because at the end of the day, you just still want to see Punk and Drew. You still want to see that match. And for the women who had a botch fest to start the match with the Money in the Bank ladder match, it wasn't fun to watch. It was uncomfortable to watch, but they trudged through and they kicked ass. They just did. So overall, I think it was an awesome, very good event. If I was to rate it on a scale of 0 to 10, I give the show an 8, 7.58. It was good to very good. And I think it delivered. It delivered, and I'm ready for SummerSlam. We can now officially put our mode into SummerSlam mode. We can look forward to August 3rd. Indianapolis. Is it Indianapolis? No, I'm sorry, Cleveland. I'm saying Indianapolis because it feels like the next 3 big events are at Indianapolis, but that's because they have Royal Rumble, WrestleMania there. So if you're in Indianapolis, you got a lot of great wrestling coming your way. A lot of massive shows. I'm jealous. But no, this is in Cleveland. So we have some, again, tentatively, if I was to lay out some matches that are already penciled in for WWE, I would say it's probably a returning Charlotte Flair. But it's Bayley versus Nia. We have Gunther versus Priest. We have Roman potentially versus Solo, but more likely he returns at SummerSlam or right after the show's over and then spears Solo, or helps Cody retain after the Bloodline is seemingly trying to help him. Something along those lines. Punk versus Drew. Absolutely. Seth is a mystery right now. I don't know what they're going to do with Seth. So he's kind of a conundrum at the moment. So there's a lot. And returning, don't forget about Rhea Ripley. My God, Mommy is coming back. And as she put it several months ago, looking for blood as Dom is being pursued by Liv. And as Liv has taken nearly everything from Rhea. Her championship, her spot, and soon her man. And my God, look out when she returns. So there's so much to look forward to. A very, very kind of, very vague look at SummerSlam here, but it's going to be fun. It's going to be a lot of fun over the next several months, and leading into next year, obviously we know it's going to be the John Cena retirement tour. So, all right, that'll do it for me. Thanks for listening, everybody, and I'll be back Tuesday night with your Monday Night Raw review. And then, of course, in between, lots of other stuff, lots of goodies coming out this week. Your regular reviews are also on the table. NXT, the mailbags on Fridays. We have an interview that we did with Raven that I'm going to be posting shortly in the next day or two. So look out for that. And consider going VIP on our website, wwepodcast.com, or go to Apple and get an ad-free experience there. Because if you're using the Apple Podcast app, there's a subscribe button right there, and you can go ad-free and get rid of all the ads you heard throughout the show. Or if you're, of course, on Patreon, that's a great way too. Patreon.com/WWE Podcast to go ad-free. All right. Thanks, everybody, for listening. I appreciate it, and I'll be talking to you next time.
Thanks for listening to the WWE Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe on your favorite podcast app so you don't miss a show, or head to WWEpodcast.com. And for all of these shows ad-free, head over to patreon.com/WWE Podcast. Until then, we'll see you next time.